This episode is sponsored by the Mentra Live smart glasses. That's right, I cut a deal with a pair of glasses. They are just that smart. If something is worth doing, I say it's worth overdoing. And decapitating hordes of mega nerds with a radio-controlled doomsday device in front of a frenzied crowd at Colorado's largest printing convention is something I consider worth doing. This is Death Racers, the 3D printed destruction derby. Half Mario Kart, half WrestleMania, and half Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny. 3 halves, like a centaur. Gaggles of geeks customize, construct, and crash together homemade RC combat cars equipped with 2 key features: a weapon in the back and a kill switch in the neck. You get socked in the kisser and your head goes flying, tripping the switch, cutting the power, and ending your run at claiming the grand prize. Absolutely nothing. Death Racers is the brainchild of fellow 3D printing YouTuber, the real Sam Prentice. Sam commissioned the original models, hard-carried the event into relevance, and collected an existentially terrifying number of Funko Pops along the way. He actually flies to Murph, Smurf, and all the Earths to personally MC every bout. Hacking up the craziest car you can think of is half the battle. You might catch a raptor in a Jeep stalking Bob the Builder, watch the Joker's buzzsaw sink a pirate ship, even witness Joseph Prussia of Prussia Research crushing a man's dreams beneath a swinging neck extruder. And the next match is right around the corner, in space and in time, at the 4th Rocky Mountain RepRap Fest, awkwardly abbreviated to ERMRF. It's in my home state of beautiful Colorado, not New York, that's where I used to live. Now I live in Colorado, and as 3D printing's de facto Coloradonian, I feel obligated to design and print the ultimate Death Racer combat car to kick all the asses invading our state. But that's just the bare minimum. We need a car that celebrates everything that got us here. The most iconic projects, the most pestilential puns, and the most insanely exotic filaments in Voidstar Lab. I forgot to show my title card in the last few episodes. Listen, I can't make ADHD part of my brand if I always remember the brand. Ladies, gentlemen, and cyborgs, this was not meant to be taken this seriously. Death Racers was envisioned as a lightweight, light-hearted clown fiesta, less a hardcore battle royale and more a slapstick slap fight decided mostly by dumb luck. And originally it didn't even involve modding. Everyone was supposed to print this specific RC car designed by Star Wars model maker Michael Badley. I believe it's actually called the Death Racer, so to avoid confusion, I'm going to call this gladiator-themed car the Badliator. But even though the real Slim Sammy has only run Death Racers for like 3 years, the Death Racer is largely obsolete. Most contestants drive the Piranha, an alternative chassis designed by Ryan Reed, pseudonym Offset Maker Lab. It's not because of like a matter of taste or popularity, it's simply because Biku Tree Tech released an official kit with everything you need to build a Piranha except the filament. Zack from the future here with an important clarification. The Piranha actually began as the Badliator. Offset revised it so extensively the two now only have like a couple parts in common. Also, Ryan Reed is only the core member of Offset. It's less of a pseudonym and more of a loose collective. I've got to start doing my research before I shoot the episode. It's actually quite a beginner-friendly project. It might be a bulky 2-kilo print, but the wiring is straightforward, assembly is really easy, and its clever core with body panels bolted on structure makes modding it a cinch. At $200 plus filament, the price can be prohibitive, but the skill requirements are not. This is a very accessible project. But no matter how many custom cosmetics I bolt onto a standard chassis, I just can't settle for a stock "this is my Death Racer, there are many like it, but this one is mine." I also expect every single participant to dogpile me the millisecond Sam yells go. ERMRF is the biggest 3D printing convention in Colorado, and I'm the biggest 3D printing YouTuber in Colorado. I would say that for many racers, knocking me out personally would be more rewarding than actually winning. If I want to stay in the game for a double-digit number of seconds, I'm going to need every competitive edge the rules permit. But I've concocted a gimmick so flavorful, so fun, and so functional, my Death Racer will look and work unlike anything that's ever hit the field. And I am wearing that gimmick at this very moment. This is the Optagon, my custom-built heads-up display that's teleprompting the very line I'm reading at this very moment. It should also be compatible with this first-person video transmitter. That means I can drive my Death Racer right from the pilot seat in first person using the Scouter from Dragon Ball Z. This awesome first-person footage was shot by YouTuber 123-3D.
I'm gonna smash. That is my philosophy.
Who actually stuffed a tiny action cam into his racer's head. Now, he couldn't drive through it. This is just a recording as he piloted off from the side.
We shall be victorious!
But this was the sanity check that convinced me to go all in. Not only does the idea of seeing this all in real life, in real time, sound incredibly fun, you gotta remember, I am years late to the party. My opponents have tons of experience and their cars are more thoroughly tested. Hopefully, real-time FPV gives me the edge I need in precision, control, and situational awareness to even the odds. There's just one problem I have to solve first. One teensy little massive game-breaking problem so profoundly stupid yet so fundamental, it's gonna instantly deadlock the entire project. That problem is what we'll return to after I plug the Mentra Live smart glasses that are shooting this very footage. This episode is sponsored by Mentra, a hotshot hardware startup straight out of Y Combinator, finally doing head-mounted wearables right. Open source smart glasses anyone can write an app for. The Mentra Live smart glasses aren't a heads-up display like my Optigon, but I don't really think that's what most people need. Instead, you get 3 microphones, stereo speakers that somehow sound like headphones, and a high-quality Sony camera. It's the ultimate tool for talking, listening, documenting, and sharing. Hold your horses, it is very obvious when this camera is recording. The Mentra Live's entire left end piece is a bright white on-air indicator that can't be turned off, and I know that for sure because the firmware source code is on GitHub and I just read it. And the footage is pretty good. The real-time stabilization makes it smoother than a handheld phone, yet the picture's so crisp, you can still read the text. First-person video is literally closer to the action. Your viewers aren't watching you do something, they're seeing what they would see themselves if they themselves were doing it. That goes double for streaming, and the Mentra Live lets Twitch, YouTube, and really anyone on any service look through your eyes in real life, in real time. Many people are skeptical of wearables, and honestly it's justified. It's why Mentra open-sourced their entire OS. These glasses' firmware, operating system, phone app, even the cloud backend are right there on GitHub for you to inspect, compile, and host yourself. If you just want to write an app, that's pure JavaScript and it's almost trivial. Just use ngrok to serve up a text file and your custom features are now on your face. Mentra is so committed to open source. They support their competitors using their Mentra OS and their app. As a bonus, anything you build for the Mentra Live should run on compatible hardware. So visit mentraglass.com/Zack Freedman or click the link below to snoop through the SDK, check out the specs, and maybe even pick up a pair for yourself. Thanks to Mentra for sponsoring this episode and letting me shoot this build. The first-person perspective is basically the reason I'm building this thing at all. Steering a chunk of plastic from the sidelines, it seems neat, not very exciting for me. What's driving me forward, har, is the sheer immersion and raw intensity of personally barging into battle. The FPV might also give me a tactical advantage, but if that were my only reason, I wouldn't have spent 3 hours rearranging the dashboard so I could see myself turning the steering wheel. This is the best feature in the entire car. First person is just cooler. I'm not watching from a good safe distance. I am looking each victim dead in the eyes as I dodge weapons aimed directly at my head. Speaking of weapons, that is the big problem I've been using to string you along. Designing a weapon I could wield in the first person turned out to be massively more complex than I ever could have imagined. There are 2 types of weapons you can put on a death racer. The bludgeon is a servo-mounted billy club, and the spinner is a motorized Beyblade on a stick. Both of them jut directly out of the ass end of the car in the complete opposite direction from the action figure in the driver's seat. I assumed this was just an aesthetic choice, right? Like nobody else's head has a camera in it, so it doesn't matter what direction the driver looks like he's looking. Other players can whip their entire car in circles to throw powerful strikes, or they can just drive backwards and, crash into someone. But for our first person to work, we need to see the weapon and the target at the same time. And when I dug in, I realized this might just be impossible. We can't relocate the weapon or reverse the driver, because according to the semi-official modding rulebook, the racer's head must remain accessible by a standard bludgeon. No structures above 160mm are allowed forward of the head. Damn that rulebook. If it weren't for the rules, I'd be able to do whatever I want. So our weapon has to be at head height to hit enemy heads, but our head also needs to be at head height because it is a head. We will get disqualified the instant our weapon approaches our field of view. Even if we lawyer the rules and shoot the angles, if it ends up actually working, we'll just crash into the following rule. Modifications may be disqualified if offering unfair competitive advantage. What the hell's that rule? That's the whole point of modding in the first place, you son of a delightful British woman. I almost forgot the next rule. Final authority rests with Sam Prentice and designated officials. Have I mentioned yet how handsome the real Sam Prentice is? Just barely more handsome than his designated officials. My first idea was to just ditch the whole weapon, bolt a motorized plow on the front, and go on a rampage in an authentic Colorado killdozer. It's an integral part of state lore, and it's one of my top 5 favorite rampages. This would completely sacrifice any ability to flip another car's kill switch. However, we can just flip the whole car. A death racer can't really lift itself off the ground, so we don't even need to worry about doing the thing the game is about doing. We just flip over the entire field and win by default. Except nope, someone already built a killdozer death racer, and the last thing Alexander Chapel needs is more ammunition. My second idea was nothing. I was out of ideas. How can we possibly aim a strike if we get a red card the instant our weapon goes past our ear? Like, get a load of this guy in last year's Printopia. His head and weapon are facing the same direction, and he's kicking ass left and right with Sam Prentice standing right there. Wait, what? Or designated officials. This wacky racer has tank treads, an omni wheel, and a spinning saw blade shaped like a snowflake. And in the cockpit, staring directly at his own weapon, sits the Caped Crusader's frostiest foe, Dr. Victor Freeze. Not the Schwarzenegger one, the animated series one. It's not better, it's just different. Also, isn't it kind of weird that Dr. Freeze's villain name is Mr. Freeze? Because bad guys can hold PhDs. In real life, it happens all the time. But how is the defrocked Doc's cryogenic cranium allowed to face the wrong direction? Did the frigid fiend slowly lower Sam Prentice and designated officials into a dewar of liquid nitrogen until they gave the special snowflake special permission? I jumped onto the real Sam Prentice's designated official Discord to learn how I, too, could pull a Riker. And I don't mean grow a beard. I grew my beard in the first season. Before the king of the castle had a chance to reply, I received my answer from a most unexpected source. The guy who made the car. The Freeze-mobile, which is actually called the Rewind, was designed and driven by Offset, the very same guy who made the Piranha. He revealed exactly how he cleared his rotation situation with Sam Prentice and designated officials. It's not actually backwards. Yes, the refrigerated Renegade's face, arms, and knees are pointing towards the weapon, but if we slice it in half and compare the cross sections, you can see that the kill switch still trips when the head moves towards the weapon. There's nothing on the non-weapon side that could block a bludgeon. The front of the car is behind the driver. In other words, Offset's creation looks like a backwards death racer driven by a backwards driver, but it's really a regular death racer with a regular driver that's just shaped to look like it's backwards. This was so fucking clever, I desperately wanted to steal it, but I couldn't. Offset didn't release the Rewind's files, but he gave me the files anyways. It turns out when you ask for help, people sometimes help you. How was I supposed to know? As a matter of policy, I try to avoid remixing closed source projects because then I can't release the files for free. I like to share everything I make. So instead of releasing the files for this project, I am going to give them back to Offset. Then he can decide whether to sell, share, or sit on them. No, I'm not gonna charge him royalties, I have patrons. I really wish I could have just printed a Rewind, stuffed a camera in the helmet, and called it a day. But here's what my first person view would actually see. We found a way to point the camera at the weapon, but in between the camera and the weapon is the weapon support pillar the weapon is attached to. Offset may have put an iron sight on Mr. Freeze's weapon, but the chillin' villain was definitely not meant to actually look through it. We didn't solve the problem, we replaced the problem with another problem. To clear a sightline, we have to move the whole weapon out of the way, support pillar and all. If we have to hack a chassis this extensively, I would rather go back to the drawing board and start with the best chassis. As clever as the driver is, the rest of the Rewind is nothing but smoke and mirrors. Mr. Freeze's half-tracked omni-wheel ski-doo might cut an exotic silhouette, but only the twin treads are actually motorized. The omni-wheel spins freely, it just props up the bulbous badonk. Bulbous badonk! The Rewind drives exactly like the Piranha and the gladiator, which is to say, like a tank. run both treads in the same direction to go forwards or backwards, run them in opposite directions to spin in place. You run one faster than the other to take a wide turn. Tank drives kind of suck. They can barely drive in a straight line, they have to slow down to change direction, and even at the best of times, they are way too clunky to get any value from our first-person situational awareness. But not every Death Racer is a track-tread tank. One version has wheels, and its wheels have wheels. This is the Ares, the second most popular Death Racer chassis, and take a guess who designed it. That's right, my man Offset. I rolled high in charisma, mooched the files for his 44-wheeled Roman-themed masterpiece, and went to work ruthlessly butchering his beautiful boy. Before I dive into the many things I carved off, bolted on, and twisted into hideous mockeries of their former selves, let's talk about the part I didn't change. The Ares' big feature, apart from the Roman brush top helmet, is how it swaps the traditional twin treads for 4 mechanism wheels, beloved by high school robotics teams, automated warehouses, and that certain species of nerd who thinks Idiocracy is a documentary because nobody uses the Dvorak keyboard. The mechanism drive is the perfect platform for the first-person road warrior. This is an all-wheel drive with 4 independent motors, but instead of tires or treads, each rim is ringed by 10 football-shaped rollers at wonky angles. Together, they... You know what, I'll just show you. Like with tank steering, you can run all 4 wheels in the same direction to go forwards or backwards, or you can run each side's wheels in opposite directions to spin in place. But if you spin the front wheels in one direction and the rear wheels in the other direction, holy shit, it's driving sideways. Mechanism wheels make cars that strafe. You can even mix these maneuvers together to move in seemingly impossible ways. You are not watching Joseph, stop calling me Joseph, Prusa Research, Tokyo drifting around corners. This car is neither skidding nor sliding. It's driving, strafing, and turning simultaneously. A mechanism drive can even change the direction it's facing without changing the direction it's traveling. And bear in mind, the head is only exposed from one direction. So if the Ares gives you 50% more degrees of freedom, why the hell doesn't everyone drive it? It's partially because PEKK-A doesn't make a kit for it, and it's partially because it needs like twice the amount of motors and electronics. But it's mostly because driving side to side is really obnoxious when you're standing on the sidelines. Forward, backward, left, and right are relative to the car, not the joystick. But if you're driving from the driver's seat, a mechanism car controls exactly like a first-person shooter. I might have 0 experience with RC combat, but I have sunk a terrifying amount of my rapidly dwindling lifespan into console FPSs. With my FPV headset and my mechanism chassis, I'll be able to weave through the fray, striking like a guided missile and running rings around my clumsier competition while everyone claps. Hopefully. This video is going to drop shortly before the Rocky Mountain RepRap Fest, so obviously I don't know how well this is actually going to work. This could be the prelude to the most brutal ass-kicking fiesta ever to grace the Mountain Time Zone, or a high-pressure septic tank of dramatic irony. Like and subscribe to find out. So I opened the Ares model, I imported the entire Rewind model, and I painstakingly transplanted the reverse driver, his seat, and his little steering wheel onto the Ares mechanism chassis. I now had a driver that looked like it was facing backwards, but making the car look like it was driving backwards was much harder. The real challenge is the backside of our Death Racer, which you'll remember is really the front side, and it looks like a car hood because it's a car hood. I had to make the front side of a Roman-themed sports car look like the ass end of a combat vehicle. And I can count the number of similarly artistic sculptural projects I've finished on 0 fingers. Instead of trying new things and developing new skills, I just sheared off the entire hood and bolted on a Gridfinity baseplate. Hey, this Death Racer is supposed to represent my whole channel. It would kind of be weirder if it didn't have a Gridfinity. Plus, the mental image of swerving through an active war zone, dumping bins of maker chips at every turn, amuses me so. Hopefully it also amuses the real Sam Prentice and designated officials, because you're not supposed to have projectile weapons, but look, if they're fuddy-duddy party poopers, I can just glue everything down. I then took that weapon support pillar that was in my way, and I didn't move it to the side, but I did shrink it down. The driver dudes and Offset's Death Racers have floppy flaccid noodle arms that are attached to a steering wheel, which is attached to a servo which is spliced into a control signal, so when the car turns, the driver turns the steering wheel. This feature is mandatory, so I integrated the dashboard into the stub of the weapon pillar to get it back up into frame. So I had solved the driver dilemma, cleared our field of view, and narrowly avoided having to do art. My meshes might have been messes, the lights flickered whenever I hit compute all, and if the timeline were any filthier, it would have been named in the Epstein files. Yet I was no closer to figuring out exactly what weapon I'd be wielding in the first place, and I was now buried in contradictory constraints. We need to guide the weapon onto our target, but the weapon is going to block the target. Spinning objects look really weird through a fast camera, so a spinner weapon could potentially make our footage unwatchable. A bludgeon on a servo would let us get it out of the way, but we need to be able to get enough force to knock off heads, but we can't build up momentum to slash opponents because we'd have to spin the car and I would barf from motion sickness. We're limited to thrusting, but the stock bludgeon is too thin to predictably poke a tiny little head, especially now that it's 4 inches off center. I could make a new bludgeon with a wider cross section, the better to poke you with. I just have to keep in mind, I will look like a copycat if it's shaped like a baseball bat, a lightsaber, Morty from Rick and Morty, a battle axe, two battle axes that merge into one bigger battle axe, and honestly, I'll get called out for stealing if I do anything anyone else has ever done, even if there's no way I could have possibly known about it. I tried to find comprehensive footage of every one of the 16 bouts I know about, but I just couldn't, and I just don't think this project is worth picking that fight. The weapon needs to be so weird no one could have possibly thought of it, but not too weird, or I might get disqualified by Sam Prentice and the designated officials. Most importantly, and possibly impossibly, the weapon has to be thematically linked to a modular magnetic storage system, ideally using obnoxious wordplay. So I tried a new approach. What if I picked the theme first, then I selected a weapon that fits? Suddenly, I had it. 3 words that threaded every needle, checked every box, and didn't just hand me the perfect weapon. They solved a stack of problems I didn't even know I had. My Death Racer will be called the Grid Reaper. Weapon of choice, a gigantic swinging scythe. A scythe solves all my problems. It can easily reach from the side-mounted pillar to the center of the camera. It gives me a broad striking surface to ram with, and I can swing it out of the way to do a drive-by, tuck it in to reduce my profile, or even just drive up behind someone, hook it around their head, and hit reverse to reap them. Yes, it is kind of weird that we're attacking with the unsharpened side of the blade, but the Grid Reaper watched Rurouni Kenshin. It's canon if I say it is. The scythe is a lot broader than any other bludgeon I've ever seen, but I don't have any reason to think that's against the rules. The modding guidelines specify maximum length and reach, but say nothing about width. But out of an abundance of caution, given Sam Prentice and designated officials could simply declare I'm getting an unfair advantage, I made the scythe blade exactly 245 millimeters wide. This means it has less striking surface than the bludgeon on a spinning car, which is up to 260 millimeters long, not including the car itself. It's also narrower than the blade on the Killdozer, which was apparently legal, even though it went edge to edge on a car that's at least 255 millimeters wide. And was on the wrong side of the car, and it sure seemed to lift high enough to block a bludgeon. That's right, I'm narking out the Killdozer. If I'm illegal, he's illegal. We share a Colorado destiny. That's what you get for preemptively ripping off the thing I was gonna rip off. I scoured the rulebook again and again, back to front, and I cannot find any justification for declaring the scythe illegal or unsportsmanlike. That said, I am gonna obey whatever Sam Prentice and designated officials say. Their word is law, and they are almost as just as they are dashing. But the Grid Reaper provides more than just a weapon. He comes with a costume. And insane as this sounds, this actually solves 2 more problems with our FPV. First, the hood puts a bumper around the first-person video camera's fragile lens, and the robe shields its delicate antennas from enemy attacks. As a bonus, the Grim Reaper's color scheme is black. This means I can print parts in exotic materials from all over the Every Filament series that are only sold in black. And so I began the ritual to summon the Grid Reaper and bind him to the mortal plane. I grabbed the freshly printed prototype parts and built up my first full Death Racer in an awkwardly long run-on sentence I wrote specifically to allow viewers to see the time-lapse I took of the prototype assembly process and hopefully feel justifiably superior to those who merely listen in the background. People who watch Zack Freedman while pooping, and people who listen to Zack Freedman while playing Warframe. The 2 genders. I ended up modding almost every part. For instance, crashing head-on kept knocking my head off, so I bolted on some bouncy bumpers. The huge scythe was swinging too slowly, so I propped the arm up on a thrust bearing and reprinted the blade in an ultralight foaming filament. I had to find new motor drivers, stabilize the camera, and cram in 3 battery eliminator circuits. The whole core needed rework. The huge structural parts are sharp and blocky, and while that's fine for printing in PLA, fancy filaments love to warp. I had to manually round off every sharp corner and model in webs and mouse ears just to get the prints to finish. I even had to find a special self-centering controller and mod my heads-up display so the Colorado sun wouldn't drown out the entire screen. I spent my whole last episode preaching how every part of a project needs to be test printed. Even though a single revision of this thing took nearly a kilo of plastic, I practice what I preach. After a few more rounds of printing, testing, reprinting, and retesting, I was feeling pretty good about the design. So I jumped right into cranking out full strength parts. This Death Racer represents the channel with every single filament. So the plan is to print every single part in the best possible filament. Did I succeed? Well, the Grid Reaper, the Death Racer I'm going to drive at the 2026 Rocky Mountain RepRap Fest, contains somewhere around $1,000 of aerospace-grade ultra-performance polymers provided by Vision Miner and printed on their ridiculous 22 IDEX V4. Sorry for the surprise shill, but they did give me $1,000 of filament and loaned me a $10,000 printer. Some of these parts were printed in their factory because there's no possible way I could ever finish a PEKK-A print this large. But we will save all of that for the next episode, where we are going to slam the door on this build and finally unleash it into a Rocky Mountain Battle Royale. Will we emerge as hometown heroes, or will we lose our heads 3.5 seconds after the first bell dings? The thrilling conclusion is but a subscription and notification bell away. Just head down towards the like button and turn left at the comment section. I might have used that joke before, but what are the odds that somebody watched all the way to the end of 2 of my videos? I can't wait to see you and your awesome projects at the 4th ERMRF. Each video, we thank 3 random lab scientist supporters, and this time we tip the metaphorical fedora, the meta fedora, to MRK-Man, William McGann, and DBT. Our collaborators are so irrationally generous, I decided not to do an Easter egg this time, and instead inscribe their names on the Grid Reaper Death Racer itself. This means if you want to show up on our car, you have until the next video to become a collaborator. Thank you Schleppy the Schwagster, Noodles, SXP, Kashan Hart Cherry, Microwave, Scott Rainey, Zachary Volpes, the Benevolent Misanthrope, and Daddy Zero, your daddy #1 in my book. I'd also like to thank Offset Maker Lab for hooking me up with his phenomenal models, Vision Miner for the Ultra Polymers and Ultra Printer to Ultra use them on, and of course, our sponsor Mentra Live for keeping our lights on. I'd also like to thank the folks who shot and shared all the Death Racer footage I've been using throughout this episode. Thank you, The Edge of Tech, Projects in Dad's Garage, 123D, Zachary 3D Prints, no relation, 3D Print SOS, Inland Filament, Protopasta Filament, and especially the real Sam Prentice and designated officials. And now the moment you've been waiting for, assuming you are a lab assistant supporter and you're waiting for me to read your silly name. The part where we read our lab assistant's silly names. Some of them need abbreviating so the algorithm hates me less. Thanks for your patience. Thank you Daniel M, MS and Chem, Possum, Dale B, Zach H, Nova Ren, Lydia K, Trans Rights, Renikai P, Leo Payton, Spire, TR Fullheart, Martin T, Reenthused, Robert B, Craft Computing, Reynold H, Roger of the Great Star Theater, Brynwolf Schulte, Krug, 6A6F, Clayton E, Crash Doom, Jareth the Disco Goblin King, named short and further. Thank you. Chartelos, Bill Moore, Blammo, Cameron M, Viwatch, Arid Steers, Nuclear, Jean-Baptiste, Gareth Lowen, T-Kites, Jiggle, My Puffs, Cliff Henning, a mnemonic for the word modem, Sarah Clancy, Norman Jaffe, Al Finger, The Krull, Igerbox, Quality Doggo, Robert Cox, Cold Dawn, Elmore, Water Heaters, Leaky Oars, No Disassemble, Lars Miss Prime, Zach, John Zobrist, Chris Floofy Kitsune, Scroto Sagan, 603, Iron Rain, Evanosaurus, Jack Moran, VK, SKL, Acalia, and I Say Trans Rights or Human Rights, Bill Schooler, Amanishi, Make Fascists Afraid Again, Paul Gibbs, Dan Ryan, Hassan Mohammed, Agent Max, Dr. Lucifer, 3 Raccoons, Big Bird Tommy, Burnduck 3, My Last Meal, The Cune, Reagan, Kevin D, Mr. Melvinheimer, Melvin, He Make Me Say Funny Things, Renaud B, Gridfi.cc, Bob Dobbs, Ad Hoc Law, Eric, The Orbital, Cookie Cad, Give It a Looky Cad, Des B, Alex Perrin, Right to Repair, This Printer Fights Fascism, CCH, Shane Frederick, Pup Geekware, Zap, Antitux, Anforian, Ryrob, Wuhan, The Meerman, Moonkin, Frexus, Adam the Useless, Slippy, Joseph R, I Don't don't know what I'm doing, Mike Kelly, Marcy Lovell, Kotuck didn't tell me to do this, Kristen Freeman, Carrot Cameron, Kufu Soto, Max Luck, Haley Kerman, and Danny Devoid of Life. Thanks for supporting Devoid Star Lab. I'll see your head on the floor at Ermurf 2026 in the future.